Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. Today we're just going to be going through free hit options for game week 34 and just doing a quick little look back at what happened in the last game week. I kind of just want to go through some players that you should be considering on free hit. I think a lot of people probably are trying to make some decisions today based on presses and stuff like that about some sort of picks that might be able to shoot them up the ranks a bit, players that maybe not everyone are going for, and how many risks you should sort of take with this. So I'm just going to give my opinions and just have a chat about what I think will be good for this week. But before we do that, just running through last week's points tally, and as you can see, it was a small red arrow for me. I did take a -4 this week, but the -4 did pay off. My -4 was part of 3 transfers, which was Murphy to Rodgers, Foden to Saka, and Dan Burn. Sorry, not Dan Burn. Nico Williams. Nico Williams? Who did I bench? I can't even remember now. I sold some defender to Kirill. Who did I say? Oh, Gabriel. Sorry. I sold Gabriel to Kirill. Finally, I just kept forgetting I had Gabriel on my team. And the Gabriel to Kirill was part of the -4. I had enough to do the other 2, and I basically just took a risk. I could have played Nico Williams, but I think that -4 is going to get paid back, even if it's by 1 or 2 points, because I thought Arsenal would get 1 clean sheet and I thought Spurs would score. So I was like, okay, Kibior keeps 1 clean sheet, gets 6 points, Nico Williams gets 2. There's my 4 points paid off, and then he gets 1 or 2 appearance points against Palace, and it pays off anyway. And I need to get rid of Gabriel. Turned out to be way better than that. They didn't keep a clean sheet, but he did score, so it was a really good hit to take. But outside of that, it's a sort of similar team to most. Was really happy that Eze got on the score sheet. Kind of just didn't really matter in the end because Mateta came on, scored 1 goal and got 3 bonus points, and they both ended on 10 for the week. So all that joy was kind of short-lived because that kind of killed my rank a bit. But still glad that he got involved, and I think he's definitely outscored Mateta on the wild card. So overall, I'm happy with that pick. And then just double Arsenal defence, doing pretty well for me. Saka was unlucky not to get more. Marmoush had a few chances, but nothing really crazy. Bit of a disappointing captaincy there. But just to be honest, a bit of a boring double game week. I mean, 68 points isn't great. I think some of the points totals we were seeing sort of earlier in the season when everyone was getting those Salah hauls just sort of inflated what we think we should be getting on points. But this week I thought even with a bad captaincy we should be clearing 70-80 points, and I think on another week this is a 100-pointer. Salah had chances, Salah had so many chances, Saka had so many chances. Isak didn't have a great game, and then 1 Marmoush return, and that's obviously a lot more points. So it was an okay game week, nothing crazy, didn't really gain rank, didn't really lose rank, and it moves us on to game week 34, which is probably going to be the most influential game week remaining this season for people playing free hits and maybe people playing wild cards and stuff like that. I think this is probably your biggest chance to gain rank. I don't think there'll be... I know there's going to be there could potentially be some doubles, but if there isn't, there's not going to be too much to attack. And towards the end of the season, it's never usually... I think we've got quite a lot to play for between the top 6 teams, but I'm not necessarily anticipating that a lot of those teams are going to score a lot of goals. I don't think there's going to be many points on offer. So I think this game week is the one to attack if you are chasing rank. And that basically brings me on to my game week 34 free hit team. As you can see on the screen, this is currently what I've got, and I'm probably about 90% on this. I'm going to go through the team quickly and tell you how certain I am on each player and why I've picked them. So Leno in goal. I'm not sure who the best keeper is this week. I don't necessarily think anyone's a dead cert for a clean sheet. I think for me, the best odds for a clean sheet, I think, are Newcastle at home. I just think they're really solid. But I prefer having a attacking defensive asset from them because I think they'll score quite a few goals. So I think outside of Leno, I think the next best option for me would be someone like Kepa, because I kind of just want a keeper that could at least get a few saves. I don't want to go for like a Jose Sarr or a Nick Pope who just concede like a silly goal and end up just getting a 2-pointer. And I do kind of feel like Leno will have some shots to save. I think Southampton are pretty decent going forward. Like maybe not the most clinical, but they do have quite a few shots. And then Kepa would be another one on top of that. Obviously going up against Man United, I think there'll be a lot of shots, but also they could keep a clean sheet. So I've got Sells on the bench. He's another one of the keepers in that sort of mould where, do I think Forest concede? I think there's a decent chance, but he also makes so many saves, and if he did keep a clean sheet, I think he'd just be on for a good amount of points, because I think it'll be a low scoring game. So he's on my bench for now. Anyway, so yeah, that's the goalkeeper. Moving on to defence, and we have got Ait-Nouri and Livramento. Ait-Nouri, I think, should be a lock in everyone's team. I think he's the more attacking out of him and Semedo, and he's got more end quality. I think he's got the most attacking returns for a defender this year, and he's just an absolute cert in my team against Leicester at home. I don't think too much needs to be said about him. Livramento is my choice for the Newcastle defence. I was not disappointed with my pick to go for Dan Burn over Livramento. I suppose I just didn't think that he would be much more of like an attacking asset. I didn't think he'd done too much over the course of the season, but I guess in the absence of Hall, maybe he sort of felt like he needed to step up and be that provider. And I just think, for me, he's the most likely to get attacking returns out of the defence. I think Shah could too, but he's a little bit of a doubt based on what Howard said, and also he is more likely to just sort of ping one in from outside the box. I think I'd probably just rather go with someone who's getting like a large volume of crosses in, and maybe could combine with like a Jacob Murphy or an Isak up top. So I'm going to go for Livramento this week. And those two are a lock on my team. I'm pretty sure the keeper and those two defenders are a lock. Trent is less of a lock, but I think I'm willing to take the risk. There's obviously other options. As you can see on my bench, I've got Sessegnon, and there's other options as well that we can go that I'll discuss. But for me, Trent, I think he starts. I think I saw enough in the last game to suggest that he's probably fit enough to start this one and play 60 to 70, which would be enough to get clean sheet points, and they can win the title on that day. I think he's going to be so involved. I think he's going to be just, occupying more attacking areas than usual. Spurs will afford him that space. It could be quite a transition-heavy game. And I think Spurs have got a good chance of scoring. But I think the upside for Trent is something that appeals to me. And when you've got the money to spend, I think it's a risk worth taking. But I'll discuss some other options that you can have instead of him. So I'm probably about 70-80% on Trent at the moment. Mo Salah speaks for itself. There is 0 point in backing against him for captaincy this week. He's been unlucky not to return the last few weeks. Had a few shots saved by the keeper and a few shots wide. Gets lots of chances. And he's going to get loads of chances against Spurs. I think for me, his floor is like 5 or 6 points this game week. I'd honestly be mind blown if he didn't at least get that. And I can't really pick another player on this list who I think has the same floor but as high a ceiling. That there's a couple of players like Murphy, I think Isak. I could see both of those getting minimum like 5 or 6, but what's their ceiling? I think Salah's is higher. I think he probably comes away with a goal and assist at least this game. So there's no point in backing against him for captaincy. It would just be chasing points in the wrong places. I think even if you're that far behind, I think just try and make them up somewhere else. You could punt on these at captaincy, but he hasn't looked too great. As someone who triple captained him, he obviously scored a good goal. I think it was like their 5th goal against was it Palace, but he hasn't been that clinical, and I don't know. He could come up with a haul, but I think as you know, Salah's the midfielder. He's a no-brainer to me. So he's obviously in the team and obviously captain. Cole Palmer, I think he's a lock for me. Like, as a Chelsea fan, it's tough to see the sort of way that we're playing right now. And if we didn't beat Fulham, Palmer would be nowhere near this conversation. But sometimes I think in football, one result like that can push a team forward. It was a massive result. 2 great goals from Tyreek, George and Neto. And I think that just can galvanise a team. So I think Palmer's the sort of player you'd usually expect to be seeing scoring those goals. So I think for me, he's going to get chances. Like Everton are going to sit back. He's going to get chances. He can shoot from the edge of the box. Tarkowski's out. I couldn't forgive myself if I went without him, and he did really well, I think. So I'm going with him. I think he's almost... I think he's one of the players where if you want to go different, he's a good one to differentiate from, because a lot of people will pick him. So if you want to go somewhere else and chase rank, I think he could be a good one to swap in, and I'll go through some options that I like. Jacob Murphy. I almost don't want to call this a boring pick, because it kind of is, but also he's been playing so well. Like, I thought he was a little bit of a trap, which is why I went for Gordon over him a few weeks ago, but I did end up bringing him in and realising my mistake. But he's actually been playing great, and he's the only one out of those forwards for me that is guaranteed to start. I know he could get rotated, but like, why would he? He's played so well. He plays every game. I'd just be surprised if he did. And for that reason, he's in for me. I'd love to go Barnes. I think Barnes is so explosive and he's been playing really well, but I just think there's a chance that Gordon gets back in. Like, why wouldn't you play Gordon? I think at home to Ipswich, it's a game they should win and win comfortably. And you need Anthony Gordon for the run-in. Like, they're going to need those options. I don't think Barnes and Murphy start every single game. So for me, this could be a good one to start Gordon in. And if you don't start him, he certainly comes on and gets at least 30, 35 minutes. So I don't think the risk is worth it in those positions. So for me, it's Jacob Murphy. And he's a lock on mine. Luis Diaz. I almost want to say that I'm locked on Diaz, because Spurs are I just don't like Spurs. I just think that they're not that great. I think they've got the potential to score goals, and obviously with getting some of their players back, like, they can hurt teams, but they also just always find a way to concede. And Liverpool are at home. Liverpool strong. I know they haven't been playing their best, but this is their day to win the title. Like, if there was ever a day where they were going to score a few goals and do it in style against a particular team, it's at home against Spurs. And I started the season with Diaz, and he did really well for me. So I'm quite happy to take the punt on him this week. I think he's another one. He's got a high floor for me. And I think he'll just get chances. Maybe he won't play 90, but he's most likely out of all the attackers, and I kind of just want more of the Liverpool team this week. I think Spurs, it's a good a fixture as any to target. They've got the Europa League next week. They're going to be playing for a little bit of pride, but also at the same time, Ange isn't going to have them running up and down the pitch like madmen 4 days before the most important game of their season. So I think Diaz is a lot for me. I can't see that one changing. Moving on to the forwards, and I think this is arguably the most interesting part of the game week because there's so many options here. But for me, the information given to us from Marco Silva has made Raul a lock, I think. I'm not going to say lock. I'm not going to say lock, but close. 80%, 90% maybe this guy starts for me. And that's just because I think his minutes will be good with Muniz out. He's on pens, and he's good at pens. He's really good at pens. I just like the player. I haven't really had him in my team at all this year, and there's been times where I've wanted him. I know that he's not in fine form, but if there's ever going to be a week to fine form, it's against Southampton. And I just think it's almost like a no-brainer pick. And that's all I can really say about him. Isak is boring. Let's move on. And then the Wolves forward in Cunha. And this one for me is 50-50. I really don't know what to do here. I had Cunha in my team earlier in the season. He did great for me. One of my best players this year. Bought him back in 2 weeks before 29, and he tried to fight everyone and got suspended. So he was an absolute nightmare for me in the end. And now he's being linked with Man United, and it looks like he's going to go to Man United. I need to hear from the Wolves manager. This is before the press conference. If there's any doubt cast on Cunha, if Bellegarde's fit, or he makes any comments at all derogatory against him, I'll put Strand Larsen in, because Strand Larsen definitely starts. He definitely plays most of the game. He's in really good form. We know that Cunha has more pop-off potential, but if he doesn't start, then it's just not worth it. Like, Strand Larsen is, again, another one for me with a high floor. So I haven't owned Strand Larsen this season, and I'm quite keen to give him a shot in the form that he's in. And yeah, that's my forward line bench. So the bench is kind of boring. Sessegnon, he's the one that could come in for Trent. I just don't know if he starts. Will I take the punt? Maybe. I'm gonna have a think on this one. But I think it's probably more likely for me that Trent plays. Nico Williams kind of just there to fill a spot. Like, he's not going to play. You could put someone else there if you want, but realistically, I'm not going to have 5 defenders play. And then Jared Bowen is one for me that I really quite like. I really quite like Bowen. But I just don't know how he gets in my team. I feel like the only way he gets in my team is either for Palmer, which I can't see me doing. Diaz, again, I can't really see me doing. Or I drop a forward out, which I kind of could see me doing, but I think I want a piece of the Wolves attack. Like, I don't necessarily think Wolves are going to score loads. I don't think they've been like free flowing under Pereira. They're just hard to beat, and they score the goals they need to. But Bowen is a good option. I think Brighton are a bit all over the place at the moment. I don't think West Ham are playing particularly well. Like, obviously they struggle to beat Southampton at home, but he's just a player who's so consistent. Like, he just gets solid returns. He always gets chances. He makes chances for himself. He's going to play. And I think it's a decent matchup for him. Van Hecker's out too, so they're not going to have their first choice centre-back pairing. So he's one I'd really consider and will definitely be lower owned. And he's also one I'm considering just to bring in general, even if I don't bring him in on free hit. But yeah, so that's my whole team. We're just going to talk about some options in terms of the defence, the midfield and forwards, and who else you could bring in. And the first one I just want to talk about is Cucurella. And I've seen people talking about Cucurella and his attacking output and stuff like that. But for me, I don't know if I could go there. Like, being a Chelsea fan, obviously he's performed really well this season, but I think for me, he has a lot of attacking potential. I think we concede. I just think we concede. Like, I think we win the game. But I think we concede. And is he likely enough to get an attacking return that makes conceding like not a big deal? And I think the answer for me is no. We're also early kickoff, and I don't really want 2 Chelsea players. So I think for me, he's a miss. Double Wolves defence is something that I've also considered. So we've also got Nelson Semedo as well, who's another one that it can be quite advanced. I think for me, this is risk appetite. Not that it's like a huge amount of risk. I suppose there's like an element of with Leicester at the moment. Vardy's just announced that he's leaving. I wonder if he just plays and scores in this game. I just don't think I want to go double Wolves defence. I think I'd rather spread my options around a bit more. But there's great upside, and he's also quite attacking, so I could see why people might want to lean towards it. Double Newcastle is another one that's been batted around a little bit. And there are some options here. Obviously, Trippier in the past has hit some dizzying heights, but not looking so great this season. Cher, I think he scored a couple of goals in the last few games. So, again, he's been a really good option, but he is a doubt. He is a doubt. And then obviously Dan Burn, I think that ship's kind of sailed. It actually wouldn't surprise me if this is a game that he scored, but with his own goal last week, I just think he's kind of just got that, like, there's a bit of a negative aura around him at the moment. But I can certainly see the idea of a double up. Obviously, you go Pope as well, but I just think I want a bit more of their attack than just Isak. So, but I think this is the best option if you want to back a defence. If you want to back a defence, back Newcastle. They're at home. They don't tend to concede too many chances at home. So I think if I was going to back it, I'd probably go Shah and Livramento. And then just moving on to midfield, I'm just going to rattle through some options. Some I've written down here are Mitoma and Bermo, Barnes and Gordon, Clive and Semenyo, Pedro Neto, and the Forest mids. Now, I think out of all of these, the best option, if I was going to pick one, would be either Clive or Bermo. Mitoma, I think at home, I think West Ham tend to usually play a 5 at the back. I just don't know if he's going to get too many chances, but he's in form and he could do well. Barnes and Gordon I've kind of spoken about, and like their minutes, I just honestly, if you want a bit of a risk, I go Barnes. He's played well, and I think I can see him starting again. Clive and Semenyo, I kind of like the Clive pick. Clive has a really high ceiling. Like we've seen him so far this year get some big points returns, but Bournemouth aren't particularly in form, and United can be a bit annoying to break down. So, but out of all the picks, I think Clive is one of the best ones here. And Bermo's in Bermo. I feel like people are kind of just picking him because it's a Thursday fixture and it's like gives them sort of a player to have, and he obviously returned well in the last game. But Forest, I know people saying they think it's going to be a bit more of an open game, but I'm just not sure I see that. Like Forest don't really play too many open games, and I don't think Brentford are going to get that many chances. I think Brentford will sit back. Maybe they'll get a few on the counter, but I think it's a bit of a boring pick for a free hit. I like him for the long run, but there's surely got to be better options for this week. And then the other ones are Neto and Forest mids. Forest mids I don't mind. If I was going to pick one, I'd go Elanga. But I can just kind of never tell who's going to score out of those, and I'd be annoyed if I pick like the wrong one. And then Pedro Neto, I don't mind it, but I don't think we score too many, and he isn't typically a goal scorer, even though he scored a great goal in the last game. So I think I'll probably avoid. And then finally, just moving on to a few forwards I want to talk about as well. And there's so many options in the forward positions this week, but just some of the ones that people are talking about. We've got Chris Wood, we've got Wissa, we've got Evan Nilsson, Welbeck, and then the Wolves guys like Strand Larson, etc. I'll just start with Chris Wood. I think he's a great pick, but they are playing against City before. Do you need to pick a player that could potentially get injured? I don't know if it's worth it. Kind of been burned by that before this season. I'm not sure people are talking about it enough. He'd probably be fine. I see him scoring, but I don't know. If he got injured, I'd just be annoyed. So for me, he's the most likely to come in for Raul because I think he's great this week, but I'm not sure I'll go there. Gakpo. And Gakpo's an interesting option. I think he might start, but he might not. He was typically first choice earlier in the year, but is he first choice right now? That's what I can't decide. So for me, I think there's better options. Wisser is a great option at any point. He's just always so lively, great finisher, having a great season, can always return you an 8 or 9 pointer. Again, I think for me, he'd be someone to buy, not buy on a free hit. But you could go there. Evan Nilsson, I've owned Evan Nilsson. He's in my team. I think he's looked pretty good. And I think he's a pretty good option for this week. I don't really have anything negative to say about him. I think Bournemouth will score and he could be involved. So I think he's a good option. And then Welbeck, I don't know. I think West Ham are just, they're a bit of an annoying team to play against. I don't see there being too many goals. I think I'll probably just avoid Welbeck. I think there's better options. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me today, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. And please do comment down below and let me know if you guys have any questions or what you guys are doing with your teams. Obviously, if you're not on free hit, then good luck with the transfer that you make. And yeah, I hope it's a green arrow for all of you, and I'll see you on the next one.